Hello everyone, welcome to our channel, Meetings Assistance for Jehovah's Witnesses. I hope all of you are doing well. In this video, we are going to prepare for the study of the book, Full Testimony, for the week of December 16th to 22nd. This week, we will study chapter 19, paragraphs 14 to 20, along with the sidebar. So, let's get started. Question 14 and 15, Part A. What did the Jews accuse Paul of, and why did Gallio decide there would be no trial? The Jews accused Paul of teaching people to worship God in a way contrary to the law. Gallio decided not to hold a trial because he saw that Paul had not committed any serious crime or injustice. Additionally, he did not want to get involved in the Jews' religious disputes. Additional comments. Acts 18:13, the Jews accused Paul of teaching things that were not in accordance with the law of Moses. However, Gallio, the judge, realized that this was not a crime, as it was a religious matter and not something against government law. It was not a legal issue but a disagreement between religions. Acts 18:14-15, Gallio decided not to judge Paul because he did not see any serious wrongdoing. To him, it didn't matter that the Jews disagreed with Paul's teachings. If the issue was merely a religious debate, it was not something for the government to resolve. Question 14 and 15, Part B. What happened to Sosthenes, and what might he have done later? Sosthenes, who was likely the leader of the synagogue, was beaten by the Jews in front of the court. Later, it is possible that Sosthenes became a Christian because Paul mentions a Sosthenes as his brother in faith in 1 Corinthians 1:1-2. Additional comments. Acts 18:17, the Jews were so angry with Paul that, unable to punish him, they beat Sosthenes, who was likely the new leader of the synagogue. Perhaps they thought he was responsible for the issues with Paul. 1 Corinthians 1:1-2, after this incident, it is possible that Sosthenes changed his attitude and became a Christian. Paul refers to him as a brother, indicating that he joined the Christian faith. This shows that sometimes, even bad experiences can lead people to draw closer to Jehovah. Question 16. Why is the promise Jesus made to Paul an incentive for us? Jesus told Paul not to be afraid and to keep preaching because he would be with him. This encourages us by reminding us that even when some people don't want to listen, Jesus and Jehovah always support us. Additionally, many sincere people continue to draw closer to Jehovah, as evidenced by the number of baptisms each year. This motivates us to keep preaching with confidence, knowing that Jesus is with us. Additional comments. Acts 18:9-10, Jesus told Paul not to be afraid and to keep speaking because he would be with him. This advice is important for us, as we too may feel fear or uncertainty when preaching. However, we must remember that Jesus is always with us, giving us strength. Matthew 28:19-20, Jesus also promised to be with his followers until the end of the system. This is a great incentive to keep preaching and teaching because we know we are not alone. Jesus is always with us, guiding and supporting us. Question 17 and 18. What was Paul likely remembering during his journey to Ephesus? Paul was likely remembering with joy the 18 months he spent preaching in Corinth. He felt satisfied because he helped many people, such as Titius Justus, Crispus, and their families, to become Christians. The first congregation in Corinth was also formed, meeting at the house of Titius Justus. Additional comments. Acts 18:18. Paul had spent 18 months in Corinth and surely felt very happy about all he accomplished there. He witnessed many people becoming Christians and was grateful for all the work that had been done in that city. It was a cherished memory of his ministry. 2 Corinthians 3:1-3. Paul compared the Christians he had helped learn the truth to letters of recommendation. This shows how important the work he did in Corinth was to him. The brothers in that congregation were evidence of his effort and love for the work Jehovah entrusted to him. Question 19 and 20. What did Paul do as soon as he arrived in Ephesus, and how can we imitate his example? Paul began preaching in the synagogue as soon as he arrived in Ephesus. Although the Ephesians wanted him to stay longer, he said goodbye, saying, "If Jehovah wills, I will return to you." We can imitate Paul by setting spiritual goals and working to achieve them while always trusting in Jehovah's guidance and adjusting our plans according to his will. Additional comments. Acts 18:19-20. When Paul arrived in Ephesus, he didn't waste time and began preaching in the synagogue. Despite the people asking him to stay longer, he said he would only return if Jehovah willed it. This demonstrates his humility and willingness to follow Jehovah's will. James 4:15. Paul provides an example of how to plan our lives while always leaving room for Jehovah to decide what is best. We can make our own plans but should remember that Jehovah is in control and trust Him to guide our decisions and actions. Now for the comments on the sidebar, Paul's vow. Paul shaved his head as part of a vow he made to God, probably as an act of gratitude. This was not a Nazirite vow, as that would have required him to shave his head in Jerusalem, but Paul was in Cenchreae. Although we don't know exactly when or why Paul made this vow, it may have been to thank God for protecting him during his time in Corinth. This type of vow shows how simple promises can be made to express gratitude to God. The vows made to God are not always about big requests. Sometimes, like in Paul's case, they can be a way of thanking him for his help. Paul likely shaved his head as a symbolic act of gratitude for divine protection. Paul fulfilled a vow by cutting his hair, which might have been a gesture of thankfulness. It was not necessarily a Nazirite vow but a way to keep a personal promise to God. This reminds us that we can also make promises to Jehovah as an expression of our gratitude. Paul's vow reflects how people can make promises to God during important moments in their lives. While the exact reason for the vow is unclear, his action of cutting his hair might have been a way to show gratitude for the protection God provided. Well, these have been the practical answers for this week's congregation book study. I hope they are very helpful for you, my dear brothers and sisters. Sending you a big hug, and may Jehovah always bless and protect you.